Test, test. Test, test. All right. Come on in. Welcome, welcome. Come on in. I'd like to welcome you to HoloDeck. We're going to be starting this in about 5 to 10 minutes. We always publicize this for noon, but it looks like sometimes people are coming in a little bit later. We've got a pretty fun topic today. All of us have a need to live somewhere. By the looks of y'all, it doesn't look like you do the viaduct thing. So the brothers that we have here, the Underwoods, I'd like to be the like honorary Underwood, like Frank Underwood. But they've been in the business for a good 120 years, 130 years?
1880.
So the math, help me there, I'm from Levi. Is that 135 years?
130, 124, 126.
Cool. I'll do a little bit of plug for those of you watching on YouTube. Next week, we've got a 4-time offender in Jeff Evans from Social Dealer Connect. He's going to be talking about his gallivanting around the country. He is now doing social media as well as digital media in the furniture industry, which is kind of cool because he's a 3rd generation furniture guy. He'll be here next week. I think that's the 2nd. Is that March 2nd? March 3rd as well. And we'll have the Underwoods back a little bit later on too. So let's give this a couple of minutes. If you'd like to grab a cup of water or some coffee or something like that, we'll get this started at about 10 after. So welcome.
Copies right here.
You okay, sir? Just call me Joel Hughes. It's kind of crazy, Scott, with how this thing's kind of coming together. So much of what we need to do is based upon the ability to present curriculum, right? And we're getting access to all these remarkable schools that are just early development, not even there yet. It's really cool. Hey. Saw you briefly on Saturday. You were at the Impact Hub. I was just talk about us not being able to see you guys. Pretty freaky stuff they have going on. Yeah. What they're doing with Ariel is very cool. So we're going to start in a couple minutes. Please make yourself comfortable, grab a cup of water, some coffee, grab a snack. What's your name, David? Good to see you, sir. All right, give us a couple more minutes. right, on behalf of Bethel Circle and the HoloDeck, and for those of you that don't know, we do put these on YouTube, so if you have any aversion to be forever being ignored by the billions of people that watch all the billions of YouTube threads, you have now been warned. We've got some fun events coming up. We have a bar crawl tomorrow night at Campfire Lounge. If you've never been to the Campfire Lounge, it's in Sugar House. It's an old house. It's kind of cool. They've got campfires all over the place. That'll be starting about 6 o'clock. Probably 60, 70 people are RSVP'd for that, and they should show up. And it's always a good time. So where business meets beer. We have our coffee event, which is next Thursday at Capaneo's. It's a little Greek place that one time actually used to be a cabaret years and years ago down on 33rd South and 3rd West. That's at 7:45 next Thursday morning. And we have our speed dating and also speed pitching event that we do about 2 times, 3 times a year. That's in the Zions Bank building, the founders room. That will be, I believe, on the 17th of March. We always do that on Tuesday night. Of course, we do these lunches on Thursdays. This is about typical. We sometimes start with about 6 to 8 people. We generally pack it out over the course of the lunch, but in the courtesy of trying to keep it to about an hour, I wanted to welcome all of you. Welcome Steve and Rich Underwood that have been in the business for a long time. Their family's been doing it since 1880. And anything you'd like to know about property management, you're going to learn today, as well as I think you're going to probably share some pretty simple formulas for you if you ever want to look into getting investment properties. So with no ado, I'm going to give it to the experts with PMI. Please take it on.
Cool, thank you. Hey everybody, I'm Steve Underwood, and I work with PMI Salt Lake. And like Joel said, thank you for having us here. We're excited to be here. We love HoloDecks. We love the opportunities to mingle with people and learn great things. As far as a little bit of background here, our great-great-granddaddy got here from London via wagon back in 1880. And basically, right off the bat, acquired some income properties, had a couple just right down across the street from Trolley Square. So I had 2 duplexes, a couple of single-family dwellings, and he was actually a property manager back in 1880. And then his son went on to he had 50 acres of land, and a friend of his had 50 acres right next door and said, hey, we got a buyer. They're going to give us $20 an acre. And they were paid in chunks of gold, $20 chunks of gold, so 50 of them. And went home, showed the kids. They were like, oh my gosh, they thought it was Christmas. Anyway, that land went on to become known as Hill Air Force Base. So we have a long lineage of family in the business. We've been doing it for a long time. My grandpa, honorary member with the Board of Realtors in Ogden, did commercial real estate, and then our parents did open up the first RE/MAX office here in Salt Lake back in the early 80s. So Rich is our broker. He's been doing it for about 20 years. He's also a general contractor, been doing that for about 20 years as well. Has earth, wind, fire, restoration experience, and he's one of 10 guys in the state of Utah that's authorized to remove meth. So without further ado, we're going to turn it over to Rich and let him educate. We got a couple of cool things we're going to show you in regards to income property, but thanks for having us, guys.
How many of you have seen commercials over the years about, hey, you can be a real estate investor, and just see that infomercial, and you go to the little thing that they have, and suddenly you're looking at thousands of dollars for education, right? So I looked at that, and I actually was one of those coaches. I was a resource coach for several years, and I put together some ideas and a metric that I think we can show you here today. It's going to make it easy to create valuations. Take this building, for example. All we need to know is how much money is coming in on this building, and we can figure out what the value is with that calculator from the dollar store. I can do it in about 20 seconds, and I can show everybody how to do that. Rather than tell you right here, I'm going to go through a couple of things here. And so my objective here today isn't to pimp anything other than let me show you how to buy real estate and understand the metric. There's a science, and it's not hard, it's not rocket surgery. It's something that is easy once you understand what's going on. Let's go through a couple of things. Start off. You've got $100,000 you put it in the bank, and you earn $10,000 in that year. You're making what? That's not a trick question. How much are you making in interest? 10%, right? You're making a 10% return on your $100,000. It's not much different. All we need to understand are a couple of things here. Now, as we're going along, I need to preface this real quickly with 3 different ways to determine value. We're going to focus on one. Sales approach. Many people understand what that is. They might not know what it's called, but the sales approach. House over here sold for $200,000. This one sold for $190,000. That means this house right here is worth about $195,000, right? That's the sales approach. It's a comparison approach, and many people use that in single family because there are so many out there. It is easy to identify this household here, this household, and so forth. There's another approach called the cost approach. The cost approach is something that that insurance companies use. If a house burns to the ground or a commercial building burns to the ground, how much is it going to cost to build that back together? The only people that I'm aware of that use the cost approach are insurance companies. We're not going to use that here today. I rarely use the cost approach. What we're going to focus in on is the income approach. Income approach takes money coming in, how much money is coming in, and we determine a value based on that dollar amount that's coming in. I believe Warren Buffett uses this same type of an idea when he evaluates a business. So we can figure out what something is worth simply based on what money is coming in. So if we look at it similarly, what we did just a moment ago, we've got a $100,000 purchase price. If we have what's left over, we have $10,000 that's left over after our expenses. We're generating a 10% return, right? It's not much different than the bank. We need to add a couple of little formulas in here as we go along. So use the same idea as a bank here. However, what we're going to do is we're going to call, instead of a return, we're going to call that a cap rate. In the real estate world, that's what we call a cap rate. Basically, cap rate, I'm getting ahead of myself. Basically, a cap rate is what's left over. So let's keep this as simple as we can. I'm a simple-minded guy to begin with. Everything I do is simple, and I try to use a metric with everything I do. There's a science to it. It's really actually kind of fun once you understand that metric. All right. So I got ahead of myself. Anyone knows what a cap rate means? It's just simply the return on your investment after all expenses are paid. So here's part of the formula. This is the key. Take that $100,000 just from a moment ago. That $100,000, what we're going to do is always assume we're paying cash. Always. It doesn't matter if we're leveraged, meaning we get a loan for 50%. It doesn't matter if we're leveraged 100%. Always assume you're paying cash. Always. Now, when we throw in the mortgage, we're going to do it later. But for right now, let's just say every time, this building right here, we're paying cash for the building. Why do you think we exclude the mortgage? A lot of instances there is a mortgage. Why do you think we exclude that mortgage altogether? There's no such thing as a dumb answer either. So anybody have an idea? Why do we exclude the mortgage, even though there's one sitting over here that we tucked away? Any ideas?
That's nothing to do with the selling price.
It really doesn't, right? It has nothing to do with it. Any other ideas? This is the reason why I believe we exclude mortgage when we're calculating our cap rate. There are so many ways to manipulate the numbers. How many of you have bought a house in the past and your mortgage officer says, all right, where do we need this to come in at? We have 30-year mortgages, 15-year mortgages, interest-only mortgages. When we take those numbers and throw a mortgage into it, loan officers are really good at manipulating those numbers and making a cash flow out of something that might not be there. So let's just take that mortgage, throw it out for a moment. We've got other ways. Steve, I'm sure you're aware of other ways that we can do. Negative amortization. Don't be fooled. It's a smoke screen. Always remember cash. All right, so that's one part of the formula. Always assume we're paying cash. This is the other part of the formula to create the metric that we're gonna put together here at the end. What kind of expenses would we incur? Say this building, for example. What kind of expenses would we incur on a monthly basis? Anybody? We got two that are pretty obvious. Taxes. Now, utilities are something that's going to be a camp fee, right? Common area maintenance. So we're going to pass that on. It's a pass through on to the tenant. We as owners, besides taxes, taxes is a good one. What else? What else we got? Insurance. Taxes, insurance. We're not going to be able to get around those, right? That's something that we as an owner, we are going to bear that burden. Anything else? We got two more. They're tricky. They start getting trickier. They start with an M. Now again, we're putting the mortgage onto the side, so it's not mortgage. Anybody else? Maintenance. This beautiful building isn't going to last forever. We have to continually love it. Just like a car. We got to put some gas, we got to oil change, we got to do tap tires once in a while. Maintenance. One last thing. It is management.
Oh.
Now, whether you manage this place, let's say it's a single family, this approach that I'm sharing with you, we can apply towards single family or multifamily or commercial or whatever, it doesn't matter. The numbers are going to stay pretty much the same. That's what I like about it. The science here, they're going to stay pretty much the same. So if you decide to manage this on your own, that's great. However, when you go to sell it, a savvy investor is going to calculate management into the mix. So we're going to have all four of these. Doesn't matter what type of building it is. That's going to be irrelevant. They're always going to be there. Here's the constant. Those four expenses are very close to adding up to 35% of the take. So let's say, for example, we've got a building that's generating $100,000 a year in income. We're looking at about $35,000 in expenses, those four expenses that we just identified a moment ago. Those four, again, maintenance, management, taxes, insurance. They're not going to go around, they're not going to go away. Anybody know where that complex is? 21st South, 7th East? Mm-hmm. That complex, it's on the southwest corner. Sorry, northwest corner. Northwest corner. Used to be a real estate group there. We got some commercial. We got some strip mall there as well. I'm good friends with the manager of that complex. And one day I just said out of the blue, hey, what are your expenses? Just out of curiosity. I said, oh, last month it was about 42. The month before that was about 36. Overall, over the years, about 35%. So that applies in a $8 million complex over here on 21st South. Here's a shortcut. If we know that maintenance is going to be 35%, we can also figure it backwards and say, all right, if our maintenance is gonna, those 4 things that we just identified, if those are going to add up to 35%, we can do a shortcut and simply say 65% of our gross income, everything that comes in, right? 100% of everything that comes in, all we need to do is figure out 65% of that would be our gross. Sorry, our net, I'm sorry. Mixing things up here. That is a net operating income. I'm sure a lot of people have heard of a net. NOI is what they call it. That NOI is really important that we're able to identify what that number is. Because everything revolves around that NOI. Everything. So let's take an example here. We got a 12-unit building generating $1,000 a month. So we got 12 units times $1,000 a month, 12,000 a month, right? We always turn this into a yearly number. So we're gonna do 12,000 times 12 months. It's gonna give us a gross of 144,000. Now, if you remember just a moment ago, 35% is expenses, 65% is the golden number that we're looking for. So if we times that number by 65%, we're gonna have a dollar amount of $93,600. Here's the key. We want to divide that NOI by, well, 93,600. We want to divide that by our desired cap rate. Again, what is the cap rate? It's just the return that we're looking for, right? That's all it is. So if we take $96,000 divided by 10%, it gives us a purchase price of $936,000. Just like that. So all we need to do, in a nutshell, is say, all right, how much money's coming in? Times 0.65 divided by our desired cap rate. And here's a little trick. Here's a little method to the madness. Once we throw a mortgage into the mix, if we are lower on our cap rate than we are our interest rate, we are going to be upside down on our cash flow. So the lower we go with the desired cap rate, if we're okay with a 6% cap rate, we're probably not going to be cash flowing once we throw that mortgage into the mix. So what we want to do is find a cap rate that is higher, the higher the better, of course. If we get above about 13 or 14%, everybody's on it. Everybody wants a piece of it. So typical rate is anywhere from 8 to 12%. So that right there is our key. That's the secret sauce. So here's our metric. Total income times 0.65 divided by our desired cap rate. This is what I find interesting. When we go, what we want to do is start with the end in mind. Flashing back to Stephen R. Covey, right? Start with the end in mind. If we are at, if we are okay with a 10% cap rate, well, let me back up. We want to start with that NOI every time. Now this is before we buy this property, right? It's always before we buy. So what stays constant is the NOI. Purchase price might go up, might go down, right? Depending on what we're able to negotiate. But that NOI stays the same. It's not going to go up or down. That number stays the same always. From year to year, it might bounce up a little bit, bounce down. But for us right now, we want to stay focused on that NOI. That number's not going to change. So we want to continue using the same net, the net, when we're trying to figure out a purchase price. Our net from before 936. This is where they're going to go in opposite directions. If we have a higher cap rate, the purchase price goes in an opposite direction. The purchase price goes down because our cap rate is higher. That net has stayed the same, doesn't change. And it goes in the opposite direction. The lower the cap rate that we're okay with, the higher the purchase price is going to be. So they're going to go in opposite directions. And that's sometimes confusing for people. Our purchase price at 11% cap rate, I don't have that with me here, but if we were to take our calculator and start working with it, if we wanted 11%, that purchase price is going to go down. All right. Any questions? You missed it.
I'm so sorry. It's been one of those weeks. Time to get quiz, is there?
Yeah, there it is, unfortunately. Yeah, there's a pop quiz. So we've got a metric, and it's just that simple. We can use that commercial, multifamily, single family. Now again, a lot of times people use that sales approach that we mentioned, that we talked about a few moments ago. I use that income approach on all of my properties, regardless, because there is a cap rate there. Most people don't realize it. You might as well know what it is and use it. So if Joel will have me back again sometime, we'll take this information that we've got right here, we'll put a spreadsheet together, we'll work on this spreadsheet. Of course, I'll make that spreadsheet available to you. No charge or anything like that. And then we'll throw in also a couple of other dynamics. Interest, depreciation. So I'll show you how not only are you going to be able to cash flow on a project, but what the nuts and bolts really mean. So I wanted to show you the how and the why first. And then I want to give you a spreadsheet that you can use. As long as you understand what's going on, it's not protected. It's not password protected. So if you want to tear it to pieces, you can. It doesn't matter to me. Call it your own. It's yours. So give me another chance someday soon down the road, and let's take that information and we'll move forward with some things.
So, are you kind of doing the equivalent of the magician that pisses off all the other magicians? Because you're telling people the tricks?
I got away with words, didn't he?
I've been known to be David Blaine. I'm a lot better looking than him, I'm sure. But
because the ridiculous simplicity of what you're talking about here seems to be able to be successfully weighted with economic factors of fluctuations in market as well, because you just need to be able to factor in on either side of the cap where that's occurring to come up with an accurate valuation.
it's true. And the formula works. You could be in Naples, Florida, you could be Salt Lake, it doesn't matter. You could be in San Jose, California, it doesn't matter. The formula stays the same. So yeah, my objective here is to teach a simple metric to the masses. If you buy a property, whether it's single family or multifamily, it doesn't matter. We would love to be your property manager. But my objective here today is to show you the metric and how easy it really is. So that's my motive. It is that simple. And if I can figure this out, I'm not the smartest guy. I'm probably the 20th smartest person in this room right now. And that includes just about everyone. So yes, it's not my goal to piss everyone off. It's just,
no, I don't.
It's just really that simple. There's no reason to have education, paying for a coach, and so forth, because it's right there. And I've taught a couple of professors before, and when we finally got to this part of it, and I explained it, the answer, I got the same thing. You mean it's really that simple? Yeah, it is really. Sorry to make it anticlimactic. So do it. you guys have got you got the metric here. You can apply it anywhere. Now, there are places in Salt Lake that cash flow better than others. I'm gonna go on real quickly, into a different area real fast. As you go from Utah County, Salt Lake, Davis, Weber, housing and prices are more expensive Utah County. That's the most expensive that we've got here along the Wasatch Front. The reason why, I believe, is because they've got better paying jobs in Utah County. And it works its way gradually all the way into Weber County. So you take one house, the same house, put it in Utah County, it's gonna cost you $350,000. Take that same house, put it in Salt Lake County, it's gonna cost you $300,000. And they're gonna come down incrementally about $50,000 each county that you move further north.
Can we do that? We can just move our houses to.
I would suggest that. Yes.
When did that flip flop occur with Salt Lake and Utah County? How long?
You know, it's been at least the last 5 years that I've seen.
Well,
Yep. Now, as you get into the south part of the valley, it's pretty expensive. Now, if you're looking for income properties, Draper is close. Draper is close in proximity and value to, say, Lehigh, of course, and further south. The price goes down, of course, as you come further north into Weber County. What you can generate in rent doesn't go down incrementally together at the same time.
it's high appreciably, right?
Yeah. So if you're looking, just hypothetically, if you're looking for income property and you're wanting resale value, stay south part of the valley. If you're looking for a cash flow that actually you're making some money as you're going along, a little bit further north, that's where my portfolio is. I still own a portfolio. Most of my properties are Layton, Syracuse, Roy, and so forth. They cash flow much better up that way, but they don't go up in value. They don't appreciate in value as fast. So the slide goes like this, of course. Utah County, Weber. So we got the sliding scale that comes down like this. That sliding scale slides like this. So you get up near Layton, up by the mall, you're going to be able to find properties that cash flow relatively well. Buy a house for $125,000 and you can rent that for $1,200, $1,100, $1,200. So that's where I prefer hanging my hat. I have a bias, of course, being up north, but anyway. So I didn't mean to go off onto that, but let's analyze a property or two down the road. Let's take, I've got access to the MLS. I'm a broker, of course, a real estate broker. I'm not interested in finding new houses, okay? That's not my objective. That's not my agenda. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm a broker. My objective is property management. So I have access to the MLS. We can pull up a couple of properties and say, all right, based on what we talked last time, this is what this property should be worth right about here. And we can move forward and do a couple of things like that if you guys are interested. I know it's a little bit of a turn from what you've had in the past, but if you have any questions, you can give Tad Flanagan, he is one of our property managers, a call. Give me a call. You guys should understand at least enough to stay out of trouble.
I'll throw a house out there, 1941 South, 900 East. It's a property that I sold about 9 years ago. And looking back in the crystal ball, in that area of Sugar House, about 1,800 square feet, postage-sized stamped lawn. Would have that been a better idea for me to have held on to it as a rental property?
Now, of course, I have a bias. We all know I have a bias. So take what I say with a grain of salt. You have got so many benefits keeping real estate. You've got interest write-off. We all know about interest write-off. Depreciation. Let's talk about that another time, but you've got depreciation. If it is an income property and it's not your primary, it doesn't matter if it's a house, commercial, multifamily, doesn't matter. You can write that off depreciation-wise. The government has a formula that we can use. We'll go over that next time if you'd like. And it's black and white. It's not gray. If you have yourself, let's say you got 7 or 8 properties, the chances of you paying taxes are for that year with all of your interest and depreciation write-offs, you're going to pretty much be paying 0, and it's all black and white. Now, again, I'm not an attorney. I'm not a CPA. I'm barred from giving legal advice. Make sure you seek competent counsel and so forth. When the day's all said and done, I'm really confident you're going to be paying about 0. Now, again, if I can do this, anybody can do this. So, getting back to your question, yeah, I think you should keep it. Sugar House is going crazy. Dad, what do you think that would rent for? 1,800 square feet, Sugar House.
How many bedrooms?
3.
3. Around 14, 15.
Depending on the condition, of course, but
Yeah.
Well, we had about $528 house payment on it.
528 house payment? Shoot.
Yeah.
To be paid off pretty soon.
Well, again, I'm not sure.
this isn't pile on, Joel.
You hold on to it, you give it to your kids, and it's paid off, and they don't sell it, you go buy Escalade.
Now, keep in mind, when you die, of course, I'm not selling any of my houses ever. When I die, that depreciation schedule starts over again with my kid. So my suggestion to my kids would be, don't sell these ever. Keep them for the duration, because you can start that schedule over again. That's something I didn't know until yesterday. So you got so many benefits. You got $1,000. Let's take your example. You got $1,000 cash flow plus the interest write-off, which is going to be,
Excuse me,
I'm sorry,
would have had.
wood, right?
Shoot.
I know. I feel for you. I'm feeling the pain. I'm sorry. And we can't change the past. We can't change what we do tomorrow, or the next day, or the next day. So find something. Find yourself a little junker in Roy, Utah. If you can. Start off with that. It's not that far. We will manage it for you if you'd like. Again, that's not my agenda here, but we can help preserve the asset. That's what property management companies do, whether it's us, somebody else. Maximize income, preserve the asset. We'll help you preserve that asset. So anyway, yes, sir.
You screen renters.
Oh yeah, there's something worse than a vacant house, and that's a bad tenant. And our objective is to have quality tenants all the time. So we screen for, you name it, credit, criminal background. Somebody's got some bank criminal activity back in the past. Any felonies in the last 5 years, background or intended, you ain't getting in. It's that simple. And we're part of the Good Landlord program here. Salt Lake City, South Salt Lake, Roy, many of the cities around are all part of this program. And for us to abide and be on this program, we are required to not allow felons. Last 5 years.
Knowing that you're one of the 10 entities in the state that can take care of meth houses, what's your absolute worst story of a house that you've come across?
Yeah, you'd be surprised. Meth cleanup is not much different than the formula I just showed you. I'm not going to share that with everybody because it's really that simple. Like, really? That's it? It's a formula you put together. You've got to be approved with the state, and you can actually clean. You can clean the entire house. We don't have to tear out drywall. Thank you. There used to be a day 10 years ago that we had to tear out drywall. So meth, the only problem with a meth house is the perception that is created. Maybe it's not called a perception, but it's, neighbors. If we get the stigma, if we could get rid of all the neighbors, we would be just fine. We would be okay. I believe we're not required to inform people that the house has been cleaned of meth contamination. But that to me is a perfect place. Go find yourself a meth house, cleaned up, turn it into a rental, and keep it forever.
Keep the meth going for a few months just to boost your
Those neighbors will ultimately die. Maybe it's just a matter of time. I can wait them out.
Multiple streams of income there.
Sorry. I'm not a slumlord. I'm just playing around. So the cleaning up a meth house is really quite simple. That it's not bad at all. I would rather do that than have a house that's had a fire. Than an insurance contract. Those are a little sneaky too. Those are a little more complex than cleaning up a meth house. All right. Any other questions? I know I've gone way under, but I'd rather be too short than too long.
Joel mentioned that you might have a crystal ball or something.
I do.
Yeah, that's good. I can have it on occasion. Property values here seem to be on the
right.
rise. And so let's say there's this old retired guy who has a house a block off 9th and 9th, and he's relocating to Maui. It's probably a good idea to rent the house.
All day long, right?
I mean, I would think that'd be a pretty rentable location. It's just a block off of that intersection.
And east, next up?
Yeah.
All day long. Right, Dad?
Everybody wants to live there.
Believe it or not, South Salt Lake, people like being in South Salt Lake. Now, my bias sometimes bites me, right? I was born and raised in Salt Lake, and I still have biases with certain neighborhoods. It's illegal for us to steer. We all know that. We can't steer. But I still have some biases, and I look at some areas and I think, oh, God bless them. But Rose Park, for example, people are really starting to gravitate towards Rose Park. It's fascinating. So 9th and 9th would be fantastic. People love that area.
It's close to downtown. It appears that there's more businesses moving into Salt Lake than I've seen in the 20-some years, which is a long time that I've been here. And so as the businesses come in, I mean, is Salt Lake considered overbuilt or underbuilt, or where are we right now?
Yeah, great question. I believe that we are not overbuilt. Our values are in sync with salaries, and our rental property rates are in sync with as well. They're in sync with salaries that are coming in. We've got Goldman Sachs that has moved in many people over the last several years. We just had somebody 2 days ago being transferred in with Chrysler. And so I think we're seeing wages go up here, which would naturally lend its ability for values to go up. We have seen that we've got other areas. Denver, if we compare our prices to Denver, I think we would be very favorable. A lot of people like moving here because the cost of living is less than on the East Coast. Now, I've got property myself personally in Toledo, Ohio, and their values are in the toilet. I know, right? They're in the toilet. They will be for years. Detroit, the Midwest, right in there. I'm not sure there's a lot of redeeming value there. Bless them over there. But you get on the East Coast, you get Phoenix, Vegas. I think we're going to still see growth, and it's steady. If you look at Vegas and you look at Phoenix, it's a roller coaster. Even Park City, for example, it's a roller coaster. It is up and down. My preference is to stay where it's consistent. If you look at the numbers, aside from 2009, when we had the blip, right? When we had the blip 2009, 10, 11, I kept my properties. And the reason why is I thought to myself one night, all right, what's going to happen? We're losing about 25% because of subprime lending going down the toilet, right? We're going to lose 25, 30, maybe a third of all buyers out there in the Salt Lake area. What's going to happen? Well, of course, values are going to come down. What's going to happen from there? Those tenants, or those people that were buying property with interest-only loans, are going to become tenants. When they lose or when they sell or whatever it is, they're not going to be able to buy another house. They're going to become tenants. I thought, I'll bet you that the rental market goes up. Sure enough, it did. I was very fortunate. But if you look at the numbers over the last 40 years, Salt Lake has been a 3.5% appreciation consistently every year aside from 2009, 2010.
And over the last couple of years, we're increasingly beating Denver and Seattle in the amount of seed capital funding and investment in companies.
And you know what they call Salt Lake? Because they call us Silicon Slopes. Yeah, I mean, it's great.
Yeah, we shouldn't pay homage to Silicon Alley and Silicon Valley, lose that moniker. Sorry. We are Utah. I'm passionate about this.
So, right? Forget tagging on with them and we'll just be.
Why should we give them credit? We're doing it better here. So we should be something that's unique and is Utah.
What do you see the economy doing?
I see that there's probably a tech bubble that will at some point parallel what happened in 2007 and 1999, but our dependence on technology and the need for us to be able to have domestic labor here, we're actually going to be in a very self-sufficient environment here along the Wasatch Front for quite some time.
We're very diverse.
Yeah.
We've got a great diverse group, and if you look at what happened in 2008, 2009, we were consistently 2 points lower unemployment-wise than the national average. The entire time, we were 2 points less. And we probably still are right now. I haven't looked at it recently, but we're self-sufficient, just like Joel was saying.
Yeah. Our biggest problem right now is that we actually have a labor shortage. We're at about 2.1% as a state. And the problem that we have here is that, especially in the tech area, we've got to be able to convince people to move to Utah or to come back to Utah that have out-migrated, or we've got to be able to utilize our rural workforce because there are truly, like there's a shortfall right now in tech jobs, programming jobs in the state, and it's right around 5,000 to 6,000 people.
That's amazing. So I see it just based on the real estate numbers that I'm looking at. I think we're going to be fine in the foreseeable future. Now, I don't have that crystal ball, but when the market goes down a little bit, the rental market still stays solid. We still need tenants. That's why I'm trying to share with you. Hey, buy something. We've got tons and tons of tenants. We have, just as in the workforce, we have a shortage of rental properties right now. There's just flat out a shortage. It only bodes well for us if we can capitalize on that. All right. Any other questions? I don't need to take up any more time than I have.
No, I appreciate the fact that you actually had this well thought out, because we typically sometimes we'll start a little bit late and we'll end up being a little bit on the battle side and go on the backside of 1 o'clock. But with everybody that's here, all of us have to live somewhere. Is there something that you have as a takeaway here? I mean, obviously, I look in retrospect at the fact that I probably should have held on to my sugar house property. It was 2008, 2009. Yeah. At that time, we had a remaining mortgage of $71,000, and we were going to sell the house for about $310,000. And it enabled us to convert to a larger house for our community. But my wife and I realized quite frequently in retrospect that if we would have put it into a property management pool, that we probably would have, well, there's no probably about it, we would have added a considerable amount of cash flow going positive. But is there anything here that's new to any of you that you would take into consideration for yourselves? Have you thought about dabbling into real estate acquisition and doing some property management? I'll put you on the spot, Scott. Did you realize the equation was that simple? And you've been in it.
Yeah, I would like to ask the question of where you think the most robust rental price point is right now.
Geographically?
Like, you said that there's renters out there and the renters are up, but what price point is probably the most robust area? Not geographically, but.
Oh, $1,400. $1,400.
For single family home.
That seems to be people's, that's the threshold for paying, for lack of a better expression. We get above into the $2,000 range. We're looking at really nice quality houses in the 2,000 range. But you can have a 4-bedroom that's really not in the nicest of neighborhoods and not the nicest house, and you can be at $1,350 all day long. So the difference between that $2,000 property and that $1,300, there's a swing of about $150,000, and you're only going to see an increase of $600-700 every month. So for me, here's what I try to do as an investor myself. I try to focus on average sales price. Take Salt Lake County, for example. Find the average sales price for Salt Lake County or Sandy or South Jordan, it doesn't matter. Find what the average sales price is, and if you're looking at single family, stay there. Stay at or below average sales price. Don't go above, because when you start going above, you can get that place rented, and we can probably rent it really quickly. But talking about that sliding scale earlier, that sliding scale, when we're up at $400,000, you're still only generating X amount in rent. So you can pick up something for $265. It's going to be less, of course, but it's going to be coming. It's not going to be incrementally. It's not going to be incrementally. Does that make sense? Did that help answer, or am I still?
Yeah, I was just thinking, when you find out that $1,400 pain threshold, you can also reverse engineer your algorithm to kind of where you want to be.
All day long, right?
Right. I mean, because it's also, I live in Park City and Salt Lake City, and I can rent in Park City 3,000 plus all day long.
Mm-hmm.
Families just in an hour. And in Salt Lake, it's more difficult.
We'll take that 1,400 and do the formula with it. What's your
What's my purchase price?
So it's 1,400 times 12, or whatever your income, take the income approach, what's your purchase price on 1,400?
So 275,000?
That's your sweet spot.
Yeah.
So you like Park City better than you do Salt Lake?
No, actually, quite.
Do you want me to put a mute on this?
The antithesis.
He doesn't know how to find this, right?
No, actually, I like living in Salt Lake better. Unfortunately, Park City is just a property that I've lived there for 25 years, but renting it out is just much easier.
Is that right? Park City is a different animal, right?
Yeah.
It's just, day and night here in here in Park City. We've got property in Park City, and of course, my preference is Salt Lake. I'll stay with the constant. We don't have, it seems like a lot of people want ski time, and that's it. During the summer, it seems like we struggle in Park City to rent.
You do big management of vacation rentals?
Vacation? No, we don't. We try to stay focused on long term. Yeah. Now, it's not to say that we wouldn't, but that's our focus.
He just bought a condo in Maui, and he has a house in Huntington,
I think that we love that area.
I do too, it's just a high maintenance house, I mean, it's built in 1905.
I was just gonna
And
bring
things
that
are
up.
gonna happen, yet there's no drywall. We're talking lath and plaster and, repairing that is a pain.
There's a golden rule, and that it's about 1955. If you've got a property built before 1955, good friends with Bear River Insurance, and the claims manager over there, he said, we don't mind. We will insure a property that was built before 1955. And he says, that seems to be the golden year. So I took this 15 years ago, and I still use it. I use that number. The materials that they used were the best that they had back in the day, but they're far inferior to what we have today. You've got, of course, knob and tube wiring back then. You've got cast iron plumbing. You've got rafters that are far inferior. Insulation that just was non-existent in a lot of cases.
Seems like they did a lot better job on hardwood floors.
Back then, yes, many of the houses, if you pull that carpet up, boom, you got hardwood floor. It's fascinating. But the material that we're using today is better, aside from the hardwood floors that you mentioned. Trusses, and with the restrictions that city inspectors make us do when we're building new construction. Every year they're changing and making it better. So those older houses just need a little more love. There is going to definitely be more maintenance. If you don't know that, there will be. But still, I think overall, the neighborhood, you're able to generate more income there. It's Class A. what we consider Class A is close to any college. It can be in California, Colorado, doesn't matter, right here. The closer you are to a college, that's considered Class A. And then it goes out from there, Class A, B, C, D. And that goes for commercial and residential as well. So you're really close to Class A.
So do you guys want to take a deeper dive with this in a few weeks?
Absolutely.
I could certainly put it out there. We'll take the presentation that Rich has given us. We'll put it up on the meetup site as well as the YouTube site. And I'm certainly going to ponder this, and I'm going to try to get myself time issues in the meantime.
We'll be good to go. I have, this is just everything that I went through in a nutshell real quickly. If you guys want these to take with you. So I saw you typing frantically, and I noticed, and you know, this is all everything in a nutshell. And of course, we've got that there, and it'll all come back again sometime if you'd like. And thank you. We'll just bust through it. Now, Steve will probably present maybe next time, because he's much better at it than I am. He's much better looking than I am.
Good, fantastic. Thank you very much.
Thank you for having me.
From a circle business standpoint, again, we're at the Campfire Grill tomorrow night between 6 to 8. That is in Sugar House on 21st South, and I think it's about 750 East. We also have our coffee next week at Capaneo on Thursday morning. We will have Jeff Evans here next Thursday afternoon with Social Dealer Connect that talked about the furniture business. And then we'll also have the speed dating. I think it's the 17th of March, speed dating and speed pitching, which is always a favorite event that's up at the Founders Room. We appreciate your attendance. Please, if you haven't been to the HoloDeck before, many of you look familiar, make your way around, get a look at what Dan and John and everybody's done here, and thank you for coming.
Okay, thank you.